Let's do it. So today we are chit-chatting with Miss Julee on Instagram, Miss Julee Wilson. And she is now the I just saw her in the room. Let me just let her say her title because I don't want to say it wrong. So let me bring her in. Boop, 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 boop. There you go. Oh. How does this... Okay, let me find you. It's not letting me... Oh, there you go. Hello, Doc. How
Hello.
are you?
Good. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. So let me start off by saying I absolutely adore you.
Oh, thank you. I adore you.
I was on Instagram. I'm like, who is this lady with these poses and these shoes and all this stuff? And I'm like, and all this good old energy. And I'm like, I was like, I love this lady. And then
Oh,
once I started diving into who you were, I'm like, oh, she's fucking amazing.
well, I try. I adore you too. I've been following your career for such a long time. And you are, you had an amazing show with my forever sister, Bevy Smith.
Yes.
And so we have a lot in common and a lot of worlds colliding. So this is a long time coming. Us
Yes,
like
it is.
chit-chatting.
Well, how are you doing during this quarantine?
I'm okay. Like, it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot going on. I started a new job while quarantining, which
Yes.
is like insanity. And then my son, I have a 5-year-old son, so we're like, homeschooling, and my husband's trying to work out of the apartment. And we live in like a modest like a 4-story walk up in Harlem. So like very tight. We're tight in here. So it's a lot trying to juggle it all, but we're figuring it out.
So now, speaking of your new job, so that's what I came into your Instagram world in the midst of that. You're like, I got something to tell y'all, can't really tell y'all yet. And I'm like, what is she talking about? What is going on? She's like, can't tell y'all, can't tell y'all, can't tell y'all. Then boom.
Then boom. So for the past 4 years, I've been at Essence magazine, which is like Black Girl Magic headquarters. Amazing, was a dream. I started there as the fashion and beauty director, and then for the last year at Essence, I was the global beauty director, so just focusing on beauty. And now I am the beauty director over at Cosmo, which is like such another dream. I just keep pinching myself. So I'm over there now, heading up beauty across the magazine, digital, social, all of the things beauty at Cosmo.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I want to jump into, I do all my research, and I want to jump into your journey to this. Now, where I started off at in my research there was at Huffington Post. But was that your first zhuzh at this?
That wasn't my first gig. So out of college, my first gig was being the editor-in-chief's assistant at Real Simple magazine. So I don't know if anyone knows Real Simple, but it's kind of just like, a women's interest magazine about organization, but they do fashion, they do beauty, they kind of do everything. And so I started off as the assistant to editor-in-chief. After a year in her office, I was promoted to the fashion department. So my career really started in fashion. And I worked my way up in fashion, worked my way up in the fashion department at Real Simple, where I was at Real Simple for 6.5 years. My last title there was staff fashion editor. And that was back in 2011 when like magazines were folding and then keeping their websites. Like everyone was going digital. It was like, what is digital is the next frontier. So I got an offer to go over to the Huffington Post. And so I jumped at it because I knew in order to have longevity in this industry, I would have to go and learn digital. And what better place to learn digital, especially back in like, the early 2010s, was the Huffington Post. So I went to the HuffPost Black Voices, and I was the style and beauty editor there. And then I kind of made my way within the Huffington Post organization and worked my way up to senior fashion and beauty editor within HuffPost Style.
Mm-hmm.
So Huffington Post is really where I brought on beauty to my plate and really fell in love with beauty. And I felt like beauty, I could like really move the needle. And I love the fact that like, you know, the lack of diversity and inclusion in the fashion and beauty space was something that I like made my priority while I was at the Huffington Post.
Mm-hmm. Now I saw, so that's where I started at. So in that story, I know that Misty Copeland, she wanted you to write her cover story for her, right?
Yeah. So while I was at the Huffington Post, you know, I've been friends with Misty for a long time. Shout out to Misty Copeland, the most badass ballerina on the face of the earth. Black woman, amazing. So she and I have been friends, like even before she kind of blew up to be Misty, excuse me. She, her husband now was like friends with my husband. And so we kind of, our worlds kind of collided, and I'm such a big ballet fan that it was great that we became friends. And so when she was on the verge of becoming the first Black principal ballerina for American Ballet Theater, Essence magazine was like, we need to do a cover story on her, which made complete sense. And so Essence reached out to me while I was at the Huffington Post and said, we know you're friends with Misty. We know that you're a great writer. Can you write this cover story for us? And, you know, at the HuffPost and at most organizations, they don't let you kind of freelance, but there are exceptions to the rule. And so kind of long story short, I asked if I could write this for the Essence, and they were like, no. And it was like, okay, like I was devastated. I was like, are you kidding me? I've seen people write for other publications here and there. Why am I not getting like the same exception? And they were like, no, I think we'll pass. We don't want you doing this. And I like went home. I cried. I told my husband, I was like, this is just an opportunity I cannot, you know, pass up. And he was like, then don't pass it up. Tell them that you're going to write it, and that if you have to get fired, then you're going to get fired. He was like, you're dope. You will find another job. So I had to put on my big girl panties, and I had to roll up to my boss and say, you know, this is just an opportunity I can't pass up. Like, to be offered a cover story at Essence, and for someone who I love dearly, Misty Copeland, I have to do it. And like that got them like, wait, what? Like, you'll leave your job in order to do this? Like, no, we have to keep you here. So basically, I mean, it's just a lesson to us all to like stand in your power and ask for what you want. Because the second I did it, they were like, no, we won't fire you, but we didn't know it was that important to you. So I ended up doing the cover story, which was life-changing. And then Essence 6 months later called me and said, we're looking for a new, you know, fashion and beauty director. Are you interested? And like, I immediately said yes, because at that point I was like, you know, I established a relationship with Essence, and like HuffPost, I was like, you made me go through all of that. Like, I'm out.
And I want to live back in that space for a second, because when I read that, I was like, wait, how, for you to say, well, one, shout out to your husband for saying, hey,
I got a ride or die, yo.
You got a ride or die husband. But when I read it, I was like, how does she know she was worth going back in there to say, I'm not doing this. Now, I'm going to do this. I don't care what y'all say. And to be able to build up that moment in your time yourself, because a lot of us, like you said, we just don't ask for it, or we just don't even know that we're worth the story to even say, I want to do this. So
it was scary.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. What was that feeling for you going there and saying, listen, I'm ready to lose my job for this because I really want to do this?
It was scary. And look, it wasn't easy. This wasn't a like, oh, I slept on it for a night and then I got up and I was like, I'm doing it. I like cried so many. I mean, it probably took like I had to get back to Essence quickly. So I gave myself probably a week they gave me to like make a decision. But like that whole week I was crying. I was trying to figure out like what I could do, what I was going to do. I have a child, like I have a husband. I have to like keep the lights on. Like there's no way I can just lose my job. But again, it's about your village, right? It's about the people who believe in you and like pour into you. So obviously my family and friends were that village, but also my husband saying to me like, Julie, like you don't see what I see. I see you're so talented. You're so good at what you do. Don't you know that there's other jobs out there? Like, so what if you lose your job at HuffPost? Like, Essence will probably hire you because you're going to knock this like cover story out of the park. And I'm just like, no, they won't, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, but I still had to stand in that and say, even if Essence didn't hire me afterwards, I was in HuffPost fired me. It was going to be like, I could find another job. I could go to another publication. I could go to another website because I had to really dig deep and know that I was not only worthy of it, but I was dope enough to do it.
So,
Yeah.
and that's what I think. That's what people need to hear too. So that gave you a big boost of confidence in yourself, letting the people know, like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, they were clutching their pearls. They were like, oh, like this Black woman is literally going to put her job on the line to write this story. And it was like, yeah, I am. Like, I can do this. And I think that they not only saw that like knuck if you buck like personality come out, but they also saw what level and dopeness of like employee that they had. It was like, we can't just let her walk out the door. So that was really encouraging for me. And it was truly like a turning point in my career. And don't get me wrong, it's not to say that I have like all of this confidence now. I still have to build myself up constantly. I still have a lot of imposter syndrome, but I always go back to that moment and said, but you did that, Julie. And if you could do that many years ago, you can do it again.
And thank you for sharing still that you have the insecurities of things, you know, because you know, because people get on these lives like, no, everything is perfect and get yourself together, because if I can do it, you can do it. You like, yeah, no, I'm still working on it.
No, all the time. Literally, I like woke up this morning and I had to write. I'm writing a piece and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can write this. I don't know if it'll be good. And I'm like, Julie, you've written cover stories, plural. Like, you've interviewed like amazing people and like turn those into amazing stories. Like, what makes you think if you couldn't do it a week ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, that you can't do it now?
Now, did you have now you said yes to go to work at Essence. Now, before you went to Essence, did you have all this Black girl magic going on before you went to Essence, or did or did Essence help bring that Black girl magic up?
Well, look, I come from like amazing stock and like ancestors, and my parents are strong Black people, and like they always poured into me of how beautiful my Black was, and like how us as a people were the dopest things on the planet, right? But when you get into an industry that is so homogeneous, like you start to assimilate in ways to try. It's like survival of the fittest. So when I was at like Real Simple, I was straightening my hair. I had like twin sets on. Like, if you Google me at Real Simple, there are like videos out there like how to tie a scarf. If you Google Real Simple how to tie a scarf, there will be a video of me doing like this tutorial with scarves. You'll never believe it's me. It's like I have like a cardigan on and my hair is straight. It was crazy. And then when I got to HuffPost is when I started working for Black Voices. It was like, where's my afro? Like, let me be more me, because the brand I was working for was more just like accepting of me just being who I was. So I would say, to answer your question, I think HuffPost is when I really got to step into like the Black girl magic that we know today.
Yes. Well, I am glad that you are here.
Thank you.
I'm in that. So I was. When I was in beauty really big, I was part of the Tasha Turner era of Essence.
Oh my gosh. So Tasha Turner, just so you know, I was her intern at Vibe magazine back when I was in college. So, you know, I mean, the industry is very small when it comes to Black folk. Tasha Turner is one of the reasons why I am who I am today, because she took a chance on me and allowed me to have my first ever publishing internship at Vibe.
Oh yeah, I love Tasha. So that was a part of Essence that I was introduced into. Now you're at Essence, And I noticed. So
Or Cosmo.
I mean, well, no. I'm saying, well, we go.
Oh,
We
now. Oh, we're going
timeline.
through it.
Yeah, we're going through your timeline. Yeah. So now you're at Essence. You started in the digital realm.
Mm-hmm.
And you were doing that thing, and they're like, "Hey, you want to do this?" And you like, "Oh, yeah."
It was a lot. So they hired me to be the digital fashion and beauty director. So all things fashion and beauty when it comes to digital. But 6 months in, the fashion and beauty director, Pamela Edwards, for the magazine left the publication. And they were like, so do you want to do the magazine too? And it was just like, okay. So that was just, it was such an honor. And it was so, it was another moment in my career where it just like took my breath away, because I think any brown girl in publishing kind of always dreams about touching Essence at some point, because it's just such a historic brand. And it's just so, it just like, you know, the women and the creatives that have come through those halls are just like insane. And for me to now write my name in the history books of saying I was the fashion and beauty director at Essence was just mind-blowing for me. And not just in digital, but over digital, print, live events, all of the things. So I got to really step into that blessing and make it my own.
Now, what would you suggest to the beauty creatives that's listening, that want to get in front? Because like Essence is like the holy grail. And it's just like, for you to be able to do a fashion spread or a beauty spread or something, just to work in that space of it, what do you suggest for somebody to just get their foot in the door to be able to do something like that?
I mean, honestly, it's a lot of networking and knowing the right people. We're moving at such a fast pace that we don't have time to find you. Like, you have to come to us. Like, you have to be DMing, emailing. Some people stop by the office. I mean, like, people, when you're hungry, and you'll do whatever it takes to make your dreams come true. So, so really it's about getting your work out there and letting people like myself, the editors and the directors, know that you exist and that your work exists. Because then it's easier when we're in meetings and like we're ideating around ideas. We're like, wait, this Afro story would be amazing with this hairstylist that I found on Instagram, and they reached out to me and said that they wanted to work with us and like we should hire them. Or like, I love this photographer's point of view. I think that they could capture the Afros in a way that we've never seen before. So I think it's really about putting yourself out there, and that takes confidence and courage and all of those things. But what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just like, it's just, and you have to, I always say this, don't take it personally if people don't get back to you right away. Because, I mean, I get like thousands of emails a day. It's ridiculous I could like spend all day going through emails if I wanted to, but then no work would get done. So you have to learn how to have thick skin and to keep bumping things. Be like, hey, I know you probably didn't see this. I just want to bump this to the top of your email box just to make sure you see it. Or, you know, I would love to take you out for some coffee. Let me know when your schedule permits, and I'll move around anything that I'm doing to make sure that that happens. So you got to just keep trying, because sometimes it's not even like we see it and we don't respond. It's literally like, I didn't see it. Like, I'm putting out a million fires. I'm working on this. I'm editing this story. I'm writing this story. I'm interviewing this person. You don't see these emails that people, you know, pour their hearts into, but sometimes we just don't see it.
And because of that ponytail story I did with Nikki B on here.
Yes.
That's how I fell in love with her. I was like, who is this lady? Who is this?
She is so talented.
She's so talented.
And you know, she's a nurse, a registered nurse, and she's been on the front lines now because she can't do hair, and so she's been like pouring into her talent as a nurse.
She didn't even tell me about that. I did a live with her. She didn't even tell me that part. But
I literally interviewed her last night. There's a story going up next week on Cosmo about her, so stay tuned.
But yeah, I was just so, because of those stories, and like you and guys, when y'all look at the magazines, like I look at the story, but I'm always flipping. I'm creasing it, looking at it. Who is this in the middle? Who did hair? Who did wardrobe? Who did makeup? Like, I'm in that trying to figure out.
You're true creative, though.
Yeah,
you understand what it takes to like pull together even just one image. And I think that is, you know, I think that's the level of love and passion that we're hoping when we you know, create these spreads, is that people like yourself or anyone who's just curious about like how it came together will see that like it takes a lighting person and hair and makeup, obviously, and a photographer, but there's so many other like factors and people trying to create this like amazing image.
Now you're over at Cosmo. So when I was, like I said, when I was I used to work for Golden Hot, which was Golden Hot back in the day. And so when we used to do these fashion runs, and you go to all the magazines, see all the beauty editors. So as a Black woman in a white space, I came in contact with them. I'm like, oh, I got this. This is my sister. I'm going to talk to my sister. And they get very much, what do you have? What it is? Okay. But I'm like, Black lady, it's me. It's not, I know it's not many of us sitting into the table with each other, Black lady. Come talk to me, Black lady. And it's not, and it doesn't happen that way. You know? So it's been very few Black beauty editors that's period. And then I also came in contact with that were accepting as another Black person that's coming into the room. So I want to know, like, from your experience in this, like, what happens? Do they just get jaded in the space, or is it that you just see so much stuff you don't care no more, or like what is?
Look, I can't speak for any other editors out there.
Right.
I think that there can be some type of like tokenism and like I'm the only one and I want to be the only one and I have to fight for that one spot and that sort of thing. For me, it's like the more the merrier. I think that the more brown people doing their thing in the industry only validates our dopeness. I know I use the word dope a lot, but I just think it's like the perfect word to describe all of this. But like, that it validates our dopeness and that we're not just like these like paradigms or like, you know, like one-offs, like that we really are out here being great and amazing. So for me, going over to Cosmo, it's really important for me to make sure that I'm bringing this Black girl magic. You know, I got a lot of DMs when I made the announcement that I was going over to Cosmo that it was like, why are you leaving Essence? Like, we need you. Why do people leave our own people to go to, you know, mainstream places? And like, you know, we hope that you don't forget about us when you go to Cosmo. And my like heart was like sinking because like, I get it. Look, I have to think about my white sisters now too. And that's fine. Most of my career has been in mainstream media and I can think about her as well. But I also know that a real true feat and real true legacy that I can leave in this industry, and especially in a mainstream publication, is that I was able to bring the storytelling for women of color and men of color and thems of color. Like, you know, I want to make sure that they're seen too in spaces that they don't necessarily feel like they're always celebrated.
And I like also too, you made a really great statement, and I was like, you know what, I never thought about it that way. When you said, if you're gonna call yourself a beauty editor, you need to be able to know if a Black girl comes to you in the streets, you need to be able to tell her what to use on her edges.
I said what I said. Okay. I think that that's a huge thing. Look, I don't necessarily white editors, beauty editors need to be experts on Black like beauty, but you need to know a whole hell of a lot, like more than the average Karen. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to know, like, if I can run you the, you know, the best like medium hold hairsprays, like you should be able to run me the best you know, edge controls. Like, Black women read your publications. So how do you have a job at a publication where you're catering to women of color, but if a woman of color came up to you and said, my 4C hair is just not thriving the way I need it to thrive. Can you recommend some products for me? And you look at them with a blank face. It's a requirement of your job. If like that 4C haired woman is reading your publication, you can't just ignore that whole population of people that read your publication. So, you know, I think it's important for, you know, everyone to know about all, you know, beauty. It's not even just black and white. I always say it's like also about, what about our Asian sisters? Like, let's talk about monolid and like, what does that mean? And like, what are the issues around that? And our Indian women and our indigenous women, like what do they need and what do they want? And again, I'm not an expert in it, but I'm curious, and I should be curious, and I should want to know about these things because I'm being paid to do it. And it's like something that I'm passionate about. So I don't think that you can only, summing it up, I don't think that you can only be concerned about the beauty that is reflected in the mirror. Yes, my black is beautiful and I'm going to know everything I can about black beauty, but I also need to know about what everyone else's beauty is about, or else I wouldn't have been able to get a job at a mainstream publication like Cosmo.
Now, do you feel as a black woman that you have to work over, beyond, harder, faster to maintain in the space?
Absolutely. I mean, like, you never feel safe. You never feel like, you know, you might feel I got this and I'm smart and I know what I'm doing, but you always, I don't know, there's always this feeling of, but I have to do more than anyone else because like, I might be the first person on the chopping block, or like, you know, I might be the first person that's misunderstood in a meeting. So you're always trying to figure out ways to prove your worth and your your job and your position. And like, that's been a really interesting thing for me right now too, because I'm starting this new job quarantining. So like, it's hard for me to hit the ground running, and I'm better in person. I want to be like, hey, and like hug people and like give them like this Julie energy. And I'm trying to do it through Zooms, and I haven't even met my full team. Like, I'm leading an amazing beauty team. These girls are dope, so smart, so talented. And I haven't even like met most of them in person. So it's been hard to, you know, to really prove myself from afar.
Now, you like you said before that you did most of your training in the mainstream media, you know, and I know in essence there's an unspoken language between black people, but when you're in the mainstream part of it, as a woman building up an industry, have you been, and I don't like using the word, but this is the best way to explain it, but have you been the black bitch going in the mainstream part of things?
I don't think I've ever, thankfully, I can say that I've had sisters who have been in the industry who have been labeled the bitch, or like, you know, militant, or that sort of thing. I have to say that thankfully for the places I've worked, and again, it's only been 4 places, Real Simple, HuffPost, Essence doesn't count because it's not mainstream, and then Cosmo for the past 5 weeks, is that my blackness is an asset. Like, they really see me and who I am and my experience and my knowledge and like my perspective of coming and filtering the information that and content that we're trying to put out into the world as a black woman as an asset. And I would encourage black creatives, black whatevers, like if you're in corporate America, to find companies that see your blackness as not just like, oh, we got our quota of black person, but as like a true asset to like the success of the company. Because I know that I'm hoping, I mean, look, Cosmo knows who they hired. Like, I always say, I'm trying not to come in like Rosa Parks up in this bitch, but like at the same time, you know, you hired a black woman, so I'm not gonna play that down. I'm gonna be like, we need to see more black and brown faces, or like, let's do a story that's more focused on this or that. And like, and not feel ashamed that I'm just playing the race card all the time. I'm really trying to bring in a more diverse readership so that they can, you know, they can disseminate the knowledge and the content amongst, you know, their community. But also, like, let's just be honest, like, Black people have friends of all sorts of color. I want my Black girlfriends to be talking about the issue of Cosmo with their white girlfriends and their Latina girlfriends, and all of them be able to see themselves in the pages.
Now, I'm gonna ask this, like, you going through your career and, you know, trying to make a name for yourself. When do you have time to take care of a 5-year-old?
Everyone's like, how do you do it? I'm like, there's no balance. I do it Jesus and tequila. Like, literally, it's like on a hope and prayer. Like, I'm so blessed to have like an amazing village, but also, like, again, back to like choosing the right partner. My ride or die husband is just so amazing, because not only does he, like, you know, pour in to me and my career and all of that, but also our family. And my husband has more of, he works for himself. So he's, he works a little bit in finance, and then he's also part-time, and then he's also a part-time private tutor. So he's kind of a master of his own time, and he can kind of like make his own schedule. So for me, I sit in this room all day trying to figure out how I'm going to make an impact at Cosmo, you know, from afar. And he's being such like a rock outside this door, like homeschooling our son and doing his work when he can. So, you know, truly it's like having the right team behind you. And like, I owe so much to my husband. And, you know, also just knowing that I'm not just my title, you know, like I always say this to people. It's like, in this industry, especially since it's so glitz and glamour and like, oh, I just got some new, you know, look, we get a lot of stuff like, you know, I'm getting products all the time, and like, oh, look at these new shoes. Like, that's all well and good. But at the same time, it's like, I'm dope being Julee Wilson Wareham, right? What makes me doper is that I get to be the beauty director at Cosmo. So like, let's not get it twisted. So I have to be very secure in myself as Julee, as a sister, as a friend, as a mom, as a wife, so that that is my foundation. And then on top of that, I get to do these other things. And I think that creates, to your question, a real true balance, and gives me perspective and keeps me grounded in the fact that, like, if that's taken from me, that job can be taken from, jobs can be taken from anyone, right? Like, industries, you know, fail, magazines fold, the new hot thing comes in and you're replaced. Like, I have to know that I'm good beyond that, and that I'm a dope mom, a dope wife, a dope friend, all of those things, so that I'm not crushed when that other stuff goes away.
Now, I ask all moms this because we have, when I do these, I see moms asking these type of questions. Before Corona, and we were living regular life, you know, and so I know you as a beauty director, you're at events, you have to be at things, you have to speak at panels. Do you feel that you may have missed out on things you would, that with your son growing up, that you may have wanted to miss, or even with your husband, or things of that nature? And if so, how do you work through that?
For sure. Hi, Dr. Jess. I just saw her pop up, so I wanted to say hi. But yes, I make a very conscious effort not to miss most things. Like, again, it goes back to, like, those things will come back around. Like, you know, the events and the dinners and stuff, they happen all the time. Like, not now with COVID, but back in the day, you know, we're going to we're like, if I could have a job going to events. Like, it's just like event after event after event, right? So you have to understand that you don't have to go to everything. You can be really judicious about what you do go to. But there have been things I've missed. Like, Essence in September had our first in New York City fashion house event. And it also coincided with my son's first day of kindergarten. And like, I literally could not bring him to his first day of kindergarten, which like gutted me and was really heartbreaking in a sense. Like, I don't think he'll remember it, but for me, it was just like, wow, like I missed that. But I hope he knows, like, one day when, you know, that fact might come out, he'll know that like what I was doing was trying to create, like, I was in a space working on a career that was trying to make him really proud of me and to create a life that would give him the opportunity to go to a private school on the Upper West Side, which he goes to, you know? So like that he knows I was working hard and I didn't miss it for some stupid reason. And like, I even put that story up on my Instagram because for me, being transparent about this life is really important for me, for people to know that this is not just like, I have some like Park Avenue apartment. I live in a 4-story walk up in Harlem. Like, you know, I don't have a car taking me places every day. This is hard work. I'm paycheck to paycheck. I'm trying to create a life and a career for my, and a life and a world for my family. And that takes some sacrifices. So I don't want people to think that this is all just like glitz and glamour.
Yeah, because you think with the title of beauty director, you just think that all y'all do is nothing. Actually, you just think
like put on lipstick and like beat our faces and go to spas and get our hair done. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely some of that. Like, there's a lot of fun in this industry. Like, I literally have like Ulta Beauty in my linen closet. Like, there's just beauty products on beauty products. I get to work with amazing creatives. I get to go to great events, but like, people also don't see the work that goes behind this stuff. Like, I put up a picture of like Tracy Ellis Ross and myself after I interviewed her, but it's not just like we did sit there and kiki and have a good time, but like, people don't think about what happens next, right?
Right.
That interview needs to be transcribed. I need to now sit with that interview and be like, how the hell am I going to tell the story of Tracy Ellis Ross, which this woman was completely formed in Diana Ross's womb. Like, and it's going to be printed in a magazine for millions of people to see. Like, that pressure, people don't get it. They just see the picture of you and Tracy Ellis Ross and they're like, oh, she's living her life. Look at her with Tracy and doing the things. And I'm like, do you know the agony and the stress and the time that it took then to take that moment and then create the story and everything that came after it? Like, it just didn't like fall out of my brain. I'm sitting there, you're agonizing around how you tell this story. Is it going to be a good story? Are people going to resonate with it? It's not just, like I said, hobnobbing with celebrities. It's about all of the things that you might not see.
What is your goal as a beauty director?
My goal is to tell really amazing, dynamic, dope stories and to create a legacy that is that just really, like, when you Google my name, when you hear my name, when you see an IG live pop up with me, that I'm giving you the most authentic Julee I can give you, and giving you the level of like work and passion that I pour into everything that I do. And, you know, I always say, like, we're here on borrowed time. We never know when we're going to go. And I think like the world is constantly showing us that, especially now. And I just want to create work that like people dig and people like, you know, that will stand the test of time, and that, you know, like when like I said, when I'm said and done, you'll be like, wow, like Julee did that.
But we're saying that now though, Julee.
I hope so.
Because but you're young too. You know, when I was like, oh my God, we're born the same year. Like, we still are in our prime of making some things happen. And we have, like, and you have like big credits behind you. So
we do, and we do have time, but it's just like, you know, I think that also, and I want to hear what you think about this too. I think that in our in our society and culture, there's so much pressure put on doing things in your youth and being the youngest and the first and like all of those things. And like, I have you know, sisters and brothers and colleagues within the industry who were like editor-in-chiefs in their 20s. And it was just like, and I'm like, I'm in my 30s and like, yes, I'm a director, but I'm not an editor-in-chief. And I don't even know if that's necessarily something I want to do or like something I'm close to. And so you can often feel like you didn't do enough. It's like, I have people who are my same age or younger who have literally had leaps and bounds bigger jobs than me. And so I think we can often feel like unsuccessful. Do you feel that way?
Yes. I was speaking to Laban Hamilton, who's this amazing artist who I'm talking to next week. But he said something to me, and I was like, you know what? This is true. He was like, so he makes all this art out of broken records, right? And he's like, he's done this for 13 years. And like me doing hair, doing what I do for 13 years. And then it's like, okay, yeah, that was great. So do something else now. You like, wait, what? Wait, this is what I do. What do you mean? I was like, yeah, that's cute and all. I mean, but can you do something different now? And you like, but no, this is all that I know. Especially from a TV aspect. It's like, we love you, we love you, we love you, but yeah, can you do something else now? You like,
exactly. You're like, this is what I do. This is my passion. Like, this is who I am. And like, it can seem very much like you're not good enough or you're always going to be looked over. But I also remind myself that like things can change in like a blink of an eye. Yes. People's lives have changed. Tides have turned. People have lived. I think of too my Uncle Dapper Dan, who actually lives on my block and is just like a true like part of my family. And you know, he had such an amazing career, right? Riding high, and then was shut down, had to go underground and do his art away from the world of the eyes of the world, excuse me. And then now in his 70s, this man is like on top of the world, heading like a line for Gucci, doing this, has a New York Times best-selling book, all of these things to sort of say there's like, you know, there's peaks and valleys. And like, just because you're on a valley now doesn't mean that you're not going to come out in a peak. And like, you know, maybe my biggest peak will be when I'm in my 70s or 80s and I'm still strutting around in my like 5-inch heels. Like, who knows? But I think that also speaks to like just not giving up on yourself and your passions and like staying true to like your vision. And that's something like I definitely had to do in this industry and just like march to the beat of my own drum. Cause there's been a lot of times where I've been like, oh, if I did this, or if I lost weight, or if I could have made it longer in fashion, or, you know, if I rolled with these people, maybe I would have been cooler. And I'm just like, I'm just me and I'm just going to do me and we're going to see where it takes me. And it's taken me to some really damn dope places.
Yeah, I'm in that space now. Like, you know, for 10 years, I was able to be on television. And then 5 years ago, it just stopped. And it was just like, and the phone calls wouldn't call no more. Things would happen. And when I was like, well, what do I need? And you start getting in your head. Do I need to lose weight? Do I need to do this? Do I need to go? Who asked me to go kiss? What is going on? Like, you know, you go through all of these thoughts in your head, trying to figure it out. And fortunately for me, this Corona thing has led me time to sit my ass down and say, hey, you're fucking dope. Get your shit together.
You are dope. Get your shit together. Like, if that's not a word, like Corona has set everyone's ass down and given them a pep talk that you are dope, you're capable, you're worthy, do it. Right? Life is too short. Like, that is also something that motivates me so much, is that like, I don't want to be on my deathbed like coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like, Julie, why didn't you write that email? Julie, why didn't you do that thing? Julie, why didn't you take that opportunity? Julie, why didn't you go jump on that plane and go to that place? Like, you know, I can just imagine that there's so many people that make it to later in their lives. Hopefully we all can make it to when we're like, you know, old and gray, but you don't want to be old and gray, you know, sitting in that rocking chair or in that bed and being like, oh my God, like I was in my 30s and I thought I was so old and washed up and couldn't do this or couldn't like have that dream. And it's like, are you kidding? You're a baby. Like
Right.
go and do the things. Go and make your dreams like a reality. Like stop comparing yourself to people. Stop, you know, boo-hooing yourself, and stop not knowing who the fuck you are.
Mm.
Do y'all know who the fuck you are? I'm like talking to the 55 people in the room. Do you know who the fuck you are? If you know who the fuck you are, stand in that and start working towards making the rest of the world know who the fuck you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that takes work. Now, you know.
It takes work. It's not easy.
Yeah, it takes work. And it also takes reminding. Sometimes you do got to look in the mirror and say, I'm dope. I'm the shit.
I'm dope. I'm not shit. Like, people should fuck with me. Like, you know, like you have to remind yourself that. And like I said, I'm doing it so easily with you right now, Derek. Mm-hmm. But like, it's hard. There are days when I wake up and I'm like, I'm not dope and I don't think I'm great. And I want to just be in bed and cry and all of those things. But like, you have to, and you're allowed to have those days. There are days where I can't pull myself out of that. But I always make sure that if a day or two goes by like that, I get back on it and I say, you know what, Julie, I allowed you to cry for 2 days. Get your shit together. We got magic to make. Stop it.
So this is my sister talking about she locked outside. Well, you gotta wait a minute, Erica. Oh. I'm almost done. I have one more question. So my last thing is, what advice would you just give? Well, I mean, you gave so much advice, but just what little tidbit would you give and say, hey, if y'all want to just do better, just this?
You know, just really invest in yourself and stop worrying about what everyone else is doing. Stop, you know, looking to the sides and like scrolling through Instagram and saying, oh, why can't I do that? Or why don't I have that? Or why can't I find a man? Or where's my job? Where's my big job? And like really pour into yourself and make sure, you know, put the blinders on and like really work on your stuff, you know? And also not to worry. Like I do worry a lot. Don't get me wrong. Again, I'm saying I have to practice a lot of what I try to preach, but like I would tell my younger self also not to worry about the things. Like I would worry about the littlest things and even the biggest things, like, oh, I didn't get that job, I'm never gonna make it in this industry and all this stuff. And every job I cried over that I didn't get, I got a better job from it. Like people don't know that like I applied to work at Essence 2 times before they called me and gave me that job. And those 2 times I was rejected. And like, look, I waited. Just a no doesn't always mean a permanent no. Like they said, and those 2 jobs that I got rejected from were not the fashion and beauty director. Like it was like a fashion assistant, a senior fashion editor, beauty editor, like, which are great jobs. But when it was time for me to go to Essence, it wasn't for one of those jobs. It was for the directorship. So that is such a testimony that even if it's a no or the doors close, that like they can open at some point. And I know that like I needed those years in between those no's to get to the point of the level of dopeness I needed to be at to become the director. So, you know, stop worrying about those no's and just know that like the yes that's gonna come is way more mind-blowing.
Julie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
When this Corona stuff is over with, I have so many new friends in New York now. I have to come.
You have to. And Bevy and I are both in Harlem, so we'll have a whole Harlem thing.
So we have to I have to get to New York and get together. I'm so glad we took time out to have this conversation. Now I gotta go let my sister in the house now.
I know. Thank you to everyone that was watching. I saw my girl Dana from Beneath Your Mask in here, and I saw Ida and like all of that. I love that everyone tuned in. It's so exciting to talk to you. Thank you so much, Derek.
Thank you, darling.
Bye.
Oh, I love all this good energy. And I like what you said about the IG. Now let me tell you something. I personally only follow people that inspire me. I don't want to look at people's stuff, and if I look at people's stuff and it makes me feel bad, I don't follow it. And meaning feel bad, meaning like, oh, why did I get this job, like she said, or why didn't I do this, or why didn't I do that? So I only follow people that inspire me and make me feel good, all that good stuff. So I would say if you go through your Instagram and you feel that way about certain things, child, unfollow their asses, honey, until you get to a place where you can appreciate whatever they're posting or you can look at it non-biasly. But that's just what I do. Tomorrow, I will be on live with Makeup Pays My Bills, and they're going to be talking to me. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. So I will see you guys tomorrow at 5 o'clock. But before tonight, if you guys are, I'm going to have it on my thing. Tonight at 7 o'clock, I will be talking to Miss Lawrence on my YouTube channel. I know everybody's been asking where we've been, why we haven't talked together, when we're going to get together. We're doing it tonight at 7 o'clock on YouTube. I put the link up. So, hey, I will see you guys tonight at 7 and tomorrow at 5. Talk to y'all later.